YouTube, what's happening? It is Thursday, June 27th. There are only 9 games in baseball to talk about today. Drop a like, subscribe if you haven't already, because yesterday we actually made some money around here. Went 6-2, 4 units even. That puts us still down for the last 7 days, 2 units, but that's okay. 38-36 for the record overall. Last 30, we're at 41 units. And that's a consecutive 30 days, and not just last month, it's the last 30 days. And for the season, up 73.7 units. Overall, doing great. As long as the season number stays green and keeps growing, I don't care about the rest of the stuff. So yesterday's plays, 6-2. The NRFI in Atlanta was great. Washington, San Diego over. The Dodgers run line, money line. Minnesota money line. The parlay of them two put together was nice. Colorado, Houston pushed at 8. They had multiple chances to hit the over, but hey, we'll take a push, whatever, get our unit back. Toronto, Boston got rained out and they'll reschedule it for like August 27th or something. Yeah, that voided out, no problem. And then Oakland, LA missed it by a couple, and Cleveland, Baltimore was a 4-2 final. So either way, 6-2, great start. When it's hard because there's only 9 games today, and the middle of the week is just hard in general for betting baseball. A lot of people don't like betting at all because it's the middle of the week. Look, Mondays are travel days, they're short days. Thursdays are travel days, they're short days. Wednesday, half the games are day games. Not only is it hard to like make videos for day games because half of them start so early, it's just that you saw yesterday. Yesterday was wild. There was so many unannounced pitchers, new pitchers starting. It was a wild day, and somehow we still made profits in it. The weekends is where everybody pays attention. That's where everything's more stable. But if we can make profits in the middle of the week, that's what we want to do most. So with the fact that there's only going to be 9 games today, we did profit pretty well. We want to keep those profits rolling to the weekend. So let's go ahead and jump into that first game right now. All right, first game, we got Minnesota and Arizona. We got Festa, who's a brand new pitcher who's never pitched this year for Minnesota. It says NA. He's a righty. Hasn't updated in the system in the database yet that he's actually on the roster today. So he obviously doesn't have any stats. Arizona sending out Montgomery, 6-4 with a 5.43 ERA. You can see the NRFI percents, how they've been doing. They've been hitting pretty well for Minnesota. They have hit the NRFIs 3 straight times in their games. Arizona's hit 2 out of 3. For the season combined, they're at 44.5, a chance of this hitting, so we're going to pass on the NRFI. Urfi's at 10, not looking at that one either. Like I said, Urfi's are almost never going to hit unless some magic is out there, so if anything, we might even, when I revamp stuff, that might come off because that space can be better utilized for other things, I think so. But NRFIs will never go away again. I promise that. So let's pop to the odds. We see that it is pretty much a pick 'em. We have Arizona slightly favored in some spots. We have 9s across the board with 1.8.5 out there. At the batting side, we see Minnesota's clearly favored. They've been clearly favored this whole series. They're getting 5 runs a game and batting 255 over the last 3. Arizona's getting 3 runs a game, only batting 196 in their last 3. So Minnesota advantage all day. Strikeouts about the same, nothing really worth mentioning. Pitching, Festa has a picture at least. So we know just from history, he's got to be somewhat good if ESPN took the time to upload a picture, because most of the time it's just a logo because it's somebody, but they got a picture of this guy. So that tells me he's decent. So I'm going with that logic. I don't care. I take every bit I can get. So, and then looking at Montgomery, we see 5.71 with a 1.57. You can see his recent games. He had his last couple of games have been really good. 3 against LA is about average, but then he got absolutely destroyed against the Mets and San Fran, and 4 against Detroit, and you can see he's probably good for about 3 runs. That's what you're going to expect out of him, is probably 3 runs. We see that the odds are 8.5 and 9. I can't take an over in this because normally around here I will fade a new pitcher. Having somebody like Festa going out there, I want to fade him, but I mean, can you trust this Arizona offense to get some runs and hits on them? They're batting 196. I can't trust that. I need to see if they were middle of the road, if they were in the 15 range, I would. But they're in the bottom 5 in batting average, and they're 23rd. They're bottom 8 in runs. So they are terrible right now scoring. So I can't trust that. So I can't take an over under. And I don't want to back Minnesota because it's again, it's a brand new pitcher. I don't back those pitchers. I fade them. So the smart thing for me to do is to lay off this entire game and just move on to the next one. Next up, we got Chicago and San Fran. Cubs on a 4-game losing streak. Giants on a 3-game winning streak. Shota 7-2, 296 up against Hicks 4-4, 3-2-4. NRFI, you can see both teams have hit the NRFI 3 straight times now. They have combined probability 64.3 chance of hitting NRFI based on their yearly stats. Looking at the odds, we see it's a pick 'em and 7.5 across the board, depending on your book. Looking at the bats, we see the Giants have a slight favorite. They're better in runs by 2 runs a game in the last 3, 4.7 versus 2.7. 250 batting versus 237 is not much of a difference, but still, albeit slight for San Fran. 10 versus 9 on strikeouts, again, it's not really that much of an advantage. Looking at the pitching, Shota has good numbers, 296 with a 110. Outside of this garbage, what is this? 11 hits, 10 earned, 3 home runs, 3 Ks. He did it again back at the end of May, too. He's like, I'm starting to get concerned. Like, that the one time is a one-off, but then you come back with this 4 games later. Right? Yeah, you had 7, only 1 earned, but gave up 5 runs. It's 5 hits and 2, 4 and 1. I mean, I'm starting to get concerned a little bit. I was all over like, hey, this dude's awesome. This is a one-off game, and all of a sudden he come out with this. Like, I watched this live. He did not want to be there. You could see it all over his face. He did not want to be there at all. So, and Hicks is going out there for San Fran, 3-2-4 with a 1-2-8. You can see he didn't do that well in his last game either, and his last game in May was also rough. So, and you can see that they have he faced the Cubs last time on the 17th, 4 hits, had a great 5 innings. Shota has not faced San Fran, so we don't have that stat for him to look at. So, but we do have Hicks did pretty well against San Fran with 4 Ks. Strikeout props, if you're looking at those, 1, 4, 5, 7, 4, 8. Nothing. He's not really a strikeout dude, let's be honest. Showed it 7, 1, 6, 7, 6. If you're getting like a 4.5, 5.5, perhaps. I don't know. I gotta dig deeper into props before I can start giving out props on a regular basis. I like to do them occasionally here and there, but they really stand out. Like, oh, there's like, oh, you're playing Seattle? Yeah, I'll look at your prop. Oh, you're Paul Skeens? Yeah, I'll take your over. You know, simple things. So in this one, we have 2 pitchers who both got kind of rocked in their last game. They both, if they're not getting rocked, they're pretty good. The bats, they're not that good. They're both low end to middle. Odds have it 7.5. You know what? I think I'm going to take the over in this one. It's 7.5. I think both these pitchers being rocked is a sign. I don't expect them both to jump back and have awesome games. And I think these bats can get some runs. And we have, yeah, I like that. I'm taking that. I'm taking it over 7.5 in this one. We're not going to overthink this one. We're not going to take a side. I don't trust either of these pitchers get a win. So we're just going to hope one of these pitchers get rocked. Maybe the bullpens give up some runs. Either way, we just need 8 runs. Sit back, root for offense next game. Our next game, we get Atlanta and Chicago. Atlanta's lost 1, Chicago's lost 4. Sale 10-2, 291 up against Thorpe. 1-1, 502 given, only 14 innings. You can see Braves have hit the nerve again 3 straight. White Sox have hit 2 out of 3, 68.7% chance based on their probability. We will take a look at that here in a second. Looking at the odds, we see it is it's hilarious. It's minus 300 with the 7.5, 8s across the board. Looking at the bats, both teams are struggling when it comes to scoring. White Sox are dead last recently in runs, and they're 27th. They're batting 177. The Braves are batting 212 in the last 3, only getting 3.3 runs. Looking at the pitching to see if you want to do a nerfy. Sale's going out there. You know what Sale does. Sale has not faced the White Sox, but outside this one weird game against Oakland, the dude's a beast. Let's be honest. Shuts him down. And then we have Drew Thorpe going out here in his 3rd game. Going against the Braves. He's had a okay game against Seattle. He got roughed up against Arizona and pitched a gem against Detroit. So we don't know what we're going to get in this one. This one's a little confusing. So with this one being the way it is, back with the NRFI being 68.7, Braves hit 3 in a row. Chicago's hit 2 out of 3. We have a beast pitcher, 1 miserable offense and 1 pretty cold offense. I'm going to go with the NRFI in this one for sure. Yeah. Make sure it's on my list. NRFI. And then we also are going to go back to the odds, and we see that people have a stigma. It's like, oh, the money line's too high, I'm not going to bet that one. I wouldn't do that. I like profit. That's all I care about. The record means nothing. I can go 2-10. If I make money that day, that's all that matters to me. So, and if I can go 20-1. If I lose, that's what hurts. I don't care. We tout profits here. We tout units. We don't tout prop up our record. So I put it there because you guys want to know it, but I don't care about it. So minus 300, I'm taking that because of the fact that Chris Sale's pitching. He's a beast. We know this. I think the fact that the Sox offense is so miserable, if they could be 31st after this game, they might be, because Sale should shut them down quite easily. So in this one, I'm going to take the Atlanta. We're going to try to find something better than 300, but it's going to be hard, but we're going to get it because I will put 1 unit to make 0.3 units every day. If I have a very high chance of hitting that, I'll take that. So Atlanta money line, NRFI, and move on to the next game. Next game, we got Miami and Philly. Miami's lost 1, Philly's won 1. Rogers 1-8 with a 4.9 up against Wheeler 9-4 with a 2.73. We see the NRFI. Miami's hit it 3 straight games. Philly's hit it 2 out of 3, 58.3 based on how they've done this year. Looking at the odds, we see again, it's another 300 special here. This time, at least it's at home. It's not at Chicago. So this is looking at the stats. If it's something good, it's going to be just like the last one. Odds are 8 and 7.5 across the board. Looking at the bats, we see Miami is miserable, just like Chicago was. 1.3 for 28 while batting 165. Meanwhile, Philly's actually hot, unlike Atlanta, who was cold. Philly's hot. 5 runs in their last 3 for 11th, 282 for 4th. So we have a massive advantage when it comes to scoring here for Philly. Pitching wise, Rogers is going out there with a 4.9 with a 1.55. Has not faced Philly. He's not a bad pitcher. He has 2 bad games of 6.44. That's what his worst 2 games are. Those aren't bad, but he hasn't really faced. Look at these offenses. None of these are standing out as, oh, these are a top 3, top 5 offense. He gets that today in Philly. And he's going up against Wheeler here. You can see his Baltimore game was rough, but outside of that has not faced Miami, but he has faced, his numbers were much better. Boston was on fire when he faced them. Milwaukee's been pretty good. You can see the numbers here. I give Wheeler a pretty decent advantage in the pitching matchups. Philly clearly has the matchup on stats when it comes to batting. And when we have 300 odds again, I'm going to take 300 again, just like the Braves, because again, 1 unit to win 0.3 or 0.33 or whatever it is, that's profit. I don't care what it is. So I'm going to put that into there. NRFI, are we going to look at the NRFI in this one because of the batting? Philly's too hot. You know what? Let's have fun with it. Because of how well I see Trevor Rogers is pitching here, I think he can do well enough to keep Philly from scoring in the first inning. We'll root for it anyway, so I have something to bet on outside of just winning. So I will take the NRFI and Philly money line and move on to the next one. All right, next up we got Texas and Baltimore. Texas lost 3 in a row. Baltimore's won the last one. Gray 3-3 with a 2.9 up against Burns 8-3 with a 2.44. We see the NRFI how they've done the last 2 games. 37.7 probability based on what they've done this year. Odds, we see Baltimore's 220, 200, 225. So we have some heavy. Today is heavy money line Thursday apparently. So heavy money line there for Baltimore. 7.5s across the board. Looking at the batting, we see that Baltimore is considerably better in the bats. 4.7 versus 3 is not that big of a jump, but 291 versus 212 is a big jump. So big advantage for Baltimore when it comes to batting. Looking at the pitching, Burns is going out there with a 235 with a 101. Has not faced Texas here recently. You can see he hasn't really had a bad game. 4 is his worst game in the past 6 games. Yeah, if that's your worst game, I will take that. So we can see dude's a beast. He shuts him down. He does great. Gray, on the other hand, he had a rough game there. He has not faced Baltimore recently, but he did have a gem against KC. Let's be honest. He pitched 3 innings against the Dodgers, 2.1 against San Fran. So we don't really know what we're going to get with him. We don't know if he's going to get like 3 innings or he's going to get rocked again. I don't know, but I would lean Baltimore either way in this one. The fact that we have Baltimore heavily favored for a reason, the odds makers know something, obviously. Are we going to look at the NRFI in this one with these 2 offenses semi-struggling? You know what? I think we might do the same thing again. We'll just keep rocking with it. So what was the NRFI in this one? 37. Let's see. Texas hit the NRFI 2 out of 3 times. Baltimore's hit it 1 out of 3 times. Our pitchers are Gray, who had a gem against KC, and Burns just good. His worst game was his last game. I want to do it. I didn't have many bets yesterday. I'm not going to have many bets today. I'm going to have a little fun, try to do a little bit of risk. You know, why not? So we are going to rock with the NRFI and Baltimore money line. Same as the last 2 games. Heavy money line favorite, and then NRFI, and move on to the next game. Next up, we got Yankees and Toronto. Yankees 3-game losing streak. Toronto 1-game winning streak. Rodon 9-4 with a 3.65 up against Barrios 6-6 with a 3.43. Yankees hit the NRFI 3 straight times. Toronto 2 out of 3. 54.7 probability based on what they've done this year. Looking at the odds, we see that the Yankees are a moderate favorite on the road. 8.5 eights are your totals across the board. Looking at the batting, I don't see how they're favored because Toronto 6.7 runs again in their last 3 for third. Yankees 3.3 for 19th, 276 for 5th, and 206 for 25th. We have a 70-ish point advantage of batting for Toronto and a 3.4 run advantage for Toronto. So Toronto has some pretty heavy, advantages here on the stats on batting. Looking at pitching, Barrios is 343 with a 113. Has not faced the Yankees recently. Faced Cleveland last couple of games, but you can see what he does. He gives up runs. His June has not been his month, so he is prone to give up some runs. The Yankees are slumping offensively, but when you face something like this is a great slump buster right here. This is a great way to bust out a slump. And Rodon's going out there. We can see Duke got destroyed against Atlanta, gave up runs here 5. Before that, he was doing it, but 2 games in a row starting to become a trend, and we'd like to bet trends around here. So looking at the odds, we see 8s, 8.5s out there. This game, I got to do it. I'm taking the over of 8 because I see a few 8s out there and hope that one of these pitchers continue their ways and give up runs. Best score I can get is a 4-4 tie. That's what I'll take. So and just because I know I'll win. So I'm not going to take a money line. I'm not going to take a run line. I'm not going to take a NRFI. I'm not going to take strikeouts. Just take the over, sit back, root for runs, and move on to the next game. Next up, Cincinnati, St. Louis. Cincinnati's lost 2. St. Louis 1-1. Abbott 6-6 with a 3.4 up against Mikolas 6-6 with a 4.68. You can see the NRFI. They both hit the NRFI 3 straight games each. 57.1 probability based on what they've done this year. The odds, we see that St. Louis is a slight favorite at home. 8, 8.5s across the board for the totals. Batting, since he has a slight advantage in runs, the last 3 at 5.7. St. Louis is 3.3 for 19th. Batting average wise, they're 5 points different, 245 versus 250. You can see outside of the runs, there's not much of a difference. So I would give a very, very slight advantage to Cincy when it comes to offense. Looking at the pitching, Mikolas is going out there with a 4.68 with a 1.16. Has not faced Cincy recently. So you can see 3-3-2. Well, his worst game was his last game, 6-4-4 against San Fran. That was his worst game. But other than that, pretty good numbers. Abbott, on the other hand, 3-4, the 1.18. His worst game was St. Louis. So that's something to see because he is facing St. Louis today. And typically on the trend, if you have a pitcher and a batter, the second time you see them, the batter's going to have the advantage because they've seen the pitches, they've seen the motion, they've seen how you do, they see the movement. It's just a slight advantage for the batter the second time around. So 7-3, 5-1, 4-3, 4-2. It was St. Louis. That was the game that stood up the most. He struck out 10 Boston last time. That's impressive too. So either way, I would still give St. Louis the advantage because Abbott did struggle so mightily against St. Louis. With that being said, with the odds, I can see why St. Louis is favored, but I can't back it because the numbers just don't match up with it because there's no advantage here in the batting area. If anything, Cincy has an advantage. So we have a slight advantage Cincy. Slight advantage St. Louis in pitching. They cancel each other out. I pass on this game. I move on to the next one. Next up, we got Cleveland and Kansas City. Lively 7-3 with a 3.03 up against Waka 4-6 with a 4.07. You can see the NRFIs, how they've hit in the last 3. 49.3 probability based on what they've done this season. Head over to the odds. We see that Cleveland, slight favorite on the road. 8.5s across the board on the total. Batting, we see they're pretty similar. It seems like Cleveland has the advantage, but the main thing I'm seeing is the trend line in this one. Cleveland is 5 runs a game for their last 3 for 11th, batting 262 for 10th, but their trend line's going down. That's not looking good. Meanwhile, Kansas City, they're coming up from dead last. They're 3.3 for 19th, 215 for 21st. So we have one trending down, one trending up. I don't like betting on teams trending down. I just don't do it. So looking at the pitching, we see Lively's going out there. Hasn't faced KC. Hasn't really had a bad game. This was 6-4-4, which has been a theme today. This is like the 4th time I've seen 6-4-4 as the worst game for somebody. But that was his worst game on the screen that you can see. So pretty good stats overall. Waka has also, his worst game is down here. This 9-7-7 right here. That was start of May, over a month ago. But outside of that, many starts, great overall. So both pitchers are pitching pretty well. Both bats, KC's trending up, Cleveland's trending down. The odds being where they are, I'm going to lean under in this one. I think Cleveland's cooling off after facing Baltimore the whole series. I think Casey's starting to heat up a little bit. The trends are, I need another game before the trends really start showing, but I'm going to take under 8.5. I'm getting plus juice on these, and we're not going to take a side. We're going to avoid that. I don't want to bet on a trend going down, and I don't want to bet on a trend line going up that had up from the basement. So we'll take under 8.5 with some plus juice, and we'll just move on to the next game. Last game, Detroit and the Angels. Angels on a 3-game winning streak. Flaherty 5-4 with a 2.92 up against Daniel, who my model doesn't think exists. So we got to figure out what's up with that. But he has pitched a few games, I see. NRFI, they both hit the NRFI 2 out of 3 times. 51.6% probability based on what they've done this year. Look at the odds. We see Detroit is pretty heavily favored on the road. 8.5 on the total across the board. For the batting side, Angels clearly have the advantage here. 5.7 versus 2.3 runs per game in their last 3. 258 versus 215 in batting average in their last 3. Angels, nice advantage in both of them. Looking at pitching, Flaherty's going out there for Detroit, 2.92 with a .97. You look at his recent games, has not faced the Angels and hasn't had a bad game. 5-1, 3-0, 2-0 over 5 innings, 1-0. This is probably the best 4-game stretch in the entire majors right now. Nobody's talking about it. Dude is beasting right now. He had a 3 here, but dude's a beast, let's be honest. Now, his counterpart, Daniel, who my model doesn't think exists, he's pitched 3 games, but he's had 2 good games too, and an iffy game here. So if you give him 3, that's your worst game, any team will take that. So he's done pretty well, given it was Oakland. Still. But 2 and only 3 against Cleveland. To me, we have 2 really good pitchers going out there. Batting, we have 1 massive advantage for LA over at Detroit. The odds have Detroit heavily favored though. So if I was being conservative, I would pass completely on this game. But I feel like being a little risky today. I had 4 units yesterday. I wanted to see a little more profit. I like Daniel's numbers. I like Flaherty's numbers. And I see 8.5 on the total. So I think I'm going to rock with the under in this one as well. Under 8.5. And that's it. All right, that's it. All 9 games broken down. We'll do the parlay real quick. I will do a money line parlay here before I do the recap. The parlay is going to be, we're going to put the big boys together. We're going to put Atlanta, Philly, and Baltimore, all 3 of those together. With the odd, the best numbers I can find, I got 156 or plus 156. So 1 unit will win 1.56 units. So that's worth a gamble. Why not? We can take that. So the overall card is going to be Minnesota, Arizona is going to be a pass. Chicago and San Fran, we're going to go over 7.5. Atlanta and the White Sox, we're going NRFI with the Braves money line. Miami, Philly, NRFI with the Phillies money line. Texas, Baltimore, NRFI for the 3rd time. Baltimore money line. New York, Toronto, we're going to go over 8. Cincy, St. Louis, we're going to pass on that one. Cleveland, KC, under 8.5. And Detroit, LA, Angels, under 8.5 as well. So that gives us what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 13 plays on a 9-game slate. That's a little, we're making up for the light plays this week with this one. So either it's going to be really good or it's going to be really bad. So either way, drop some comments. Let me know what you're taking today. Let me know any suggestions, comments, opinions, whatever. I try to respond to as much as I can. Otherwise, don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you tomorrow. Peace.